Have you ever woken up and felt like you were living a rerun? Like the script of your life, the challenges, the desires, the frustrations, was something you'd already seen? If so, you're tapping into a profound ancient truth. Today, we're not just talking about the Matrix as a movie. We're talking about the human addiction matrix, a spiritual gravity well that keeps us locked in a cycle of endless return. Stick with me for the next 7 minutes, and you will never see life the same again. This is the conversation you need to hear, the one that explains why you keep coming back, and how to finally choose to go home. Let's start with the premise. Imagine your soul, the core of your being, as a traveler. At the end of a life, this traveler returns, carrying a bag full of hard-won wisdom, of lessons learned, of experiences integrated. The goal, the natural trajectory, is to move onward, to achieve what we call escape velocity. This is the spiritual equivalent of breaking free from a planet's gravitational pull. The idea is that you take your goodies, your knowledge, and you move to the next level of existence. But here is where the unexpected happens. The twist in the journey that no one anticipates. The problem is not a cosmic jailer or some external force. The problem is internal. It's a deep, almost unconscious attachment to the experience itself. We become addicted to being human. Think about that for a moment. Addicted to being human. This addiction manifests as a powerful, almost irresistible pullback to the physical. It's the desire for another taste, another round of the drama, another chance to experience the unique sensations of this time, this space, this physical matter. And so, instead of moving out, instead of achieving that escape velocity, we start to turn around. It is a decision, and this is crucial. It is our decision, no one else's. We say, I think I'll go back just once more. Maybe to experience a different gender, a different culture, or a different era. Just once more, and then I'll go home. This decision to return, this spiritual U-turn, is what locks us into the cycle. With each return, we pick up what is known as a load factor. What is this load factor? It is the friction, the unfulfilled desires, the attachments, the emotional baggage, the unfinished business we accumulate. Imagine a spacecraft trying to leave Earth. If it keeps returning to the atmosphere, it accumulates more and more drag, more weight, more friction. That is the load factor. We slow up a little more. We don't have the speed we did. We have a greater load. We are now in orbit, but it's a decaying orbit. With each successive life, the orbit gets lower, tighter, more constrained. We get caught up in the minutia. We come up around the orbit, and we say, oh, I have to go back. I didn't get to see the pyramids. Or, I didn't have enough children. Or, I didn't experience true, unconditional love. These are the anchors. The desire to go back and live again, just so you can go to Paris, or eat enough strawberries, or have enough sex. These are the small, human-scale desires that keep the massive, spiritual cycle turning. They are the evidence of the addiction. As this cycle continues, the orbit decays more and more, until you are locked in tighter and tighter. You become so deeply immersed in being human, so addicted to the physical reality, that you forget where you came from. You lose all memory, all desire, to even depart and go home. This reality, this time, space, physical matter, becomes overwhelmingly addictive. Now you can't think of anything else. And to justify this deep, unconscious addiction, we develop elaborate belief systems. These are the excuses, the complex, human-term philosophies we create to rationalize why we must stay here. We build entire cultures, entire religions, entire scientific models, all designed to explain and justify the loop. But they are all done in this local traffic, human term context. They don't account for the spiritual physics. But here is the good news, the crack in the matrix. Eventually, the analytical mind, the higher self, begins to find holes in these belief systems. You start to see the inconsistencies. You realize that 2 and 2 doesn't always make 4 in this reality. You find the cracks, and that is the moment of awakening. That moment, when you see the crack, is when you begin to regrow. You start on your way out again. But how do you actively increase your orbit? How do you shed the load factor? The answer lies in a simple, yet profound, daily practice: mindfulness and meditation. The load factor is made up of attachment to outcomes, to possessions, to relationships, to the very idea of self within this human body. Meditation is the tool that allows you to observe these attachments, these desires, without engaging with them. When you sit in silence, you are creating a momentary spiritual vacuum. You are saying, for this time, I am not participating in the human addiction. You are observing the desire to go to Paris, or the need for a new car, or the craving for a certain food, and you are letting it pass. You are not feeding the addiction. This practice, done consistently, begins to shed the load factor. It increases your spiritual speed. It raises your orbit. You are learning to detach, to integrate the lesson without needing to repeat the experience. You are moving from experiencing to knowing. The key is to recognize that the power to leave the matrix, to break the cycle, is entirely yours. There is no law that says you have to stay here. You are the one who makes the decision to go back. Meditation is the daily practice of choosing to go home. So what will you choose today? Will you continue to accumulate load factor, allowing your orbit to decay? Or will you commit to the daily practice of mindfulness, actively working to regain your escape velocity? The choice is yours. And it is the only choice that truly matters. It is the difference between an endless loop and the final journey home. If this deep dive resonated with you, if you feel that crack in the matrix, hit the like button, subscribe for more blueprints to reality, and let me know in the comments, what is the one daily practice you use to shed your load factor? Share your wisdom below.